Hello YouTube, Pink Ponage here, and we have a weapon meta tier list for the latest Population 1 patch. I've been able to play competition at the highest level in Population 1, including Diamond Division, where my team is ranked 2nd in the entire world, Mixed Doubles Quads, where we're ranked 1 across the whole season, and also in Clan Wars, where we just fought a really intense clan war with Clan Apex, which includes the greatest players in the world and many in Diamond Division. And so this video comes to you from my knowledge of this meta and where I think it will shape up within the next month for myself, like the level of play I play at, and it'll probably be a couple or few months later for you to see all of this shape up in pub games, for people to learn how to use the weapons and all that from this tier list essentially, and everyone sees it in the game and copies, etc. So here we go with this tier list. I'm going to try to keep this short. The longer video is on Twitch, so if you want to see that, by all means go and check that out, but let's get right to it. The tier list. This is the tier list for this current patch. Now, if you want to just take a screenshot of this, again, you don't want to hear me ramble, go for it, do it, but you're definitely going to disagree with some things, and you're going to want to hear my rationale for them, all right? Well, let's start off with the S-tier weapons. We'll actually go in order. Let's start with the AWP. The AWP has been S-tier since this game has been released, all right? It's overpowered for many reasons. First off, it's the only gun at far range that can kill someone within like 1 second if you know how to use it like on a professional level. And so there's no counter to the AWP except the AWP, because a good AWPer can just go up over the rock, shoot his 2 quick shots, go back down, and you really didn't have time to even shoot back at him with an assault rifle, which has bullet travel speed that is substantially slower than that op shot. And so there's no counter to the AWP except the AWP, which makes it really broken. The only counter to the AWP is the M60, and it's really not a hard counter, it's a soft counter. And if you've ever played a first-person shooter, you know that if one weapon doesn't have any hard counter to it, that's what makes it broken, hard counter. Now the AWP, to make it that OP, you have to be able to quick scope in rapid succession. You have to be able to pull off that double tap, 1 headshot body shot with a quick scope, and that's not easy to do, so that is the balancing factor, the skill, right, that you need to do it. Having said that, I put a YouTube video out that shows you how to quick scope, and I see so many people clipping and doing all this stuff and quick scoping that I never saw do before until I put that video out. So the community is learning, everyone's getting better with it, and I imagine hopefully someday way later this will get nerfed because everyone will be doing it. But anyways, the long range is literally op on each team. They shoot with op shots. Once one person gets a headshot or a couple body shots, the team that got those shots pushes. That is the meta right now, and it's really kind of boring at that distance. The only counter to that is the M60 right now, because the M60 got a buff to the damage it does at range, and the recoil got buffed recently in 2 patches ago, which means if you're brave enough to stand there and not get killed by the op, then you're able to put out some pressure on the AWPer while they're taking their shots. It's not easy to do, and you're not going to see many people be able to do this against a great person who knows how to snipe, because it takes balls, and you have to be able to strafe really well, and you have to trust your aim and know the recoil. It's not easy to do, hence it's a soft counter, because I have been double shot by AWPs with an M60, and it ain't fun. It's really difficult. So the M60 is in a really great spot right now, because if you don't know, it got a damage buff to the short range, and it does better damage at long range. It's not the greatest at killing build. It actually got a really hard nerf to how it kills build. Now it kills build with 2, 3, 4, and 5 shots, depending on how far you're away from the target. So at max range, you're hitting 5 shots versus 2 from a couple weeks ago before this patch hit. So that's a major nerf to the build break potential, which made this gun essentially kind of nerfed at long range, but stronger in the close to mid-ish range, all right, sort of. The damage buff really helps it. It helps the math, which is really great. And the only thing is, you can't really one-hand peek with it, which is good. And before you could, so I think it's S tier because of its build break potential, because build break really changed this game. Every other gun is essentially, every gun really, it got worse at breaking build, except SMGs. So in the long range, it's really horrible for build break. So your really only true option that's really effective is the M60, which is why it's really S tier right here, okay? And it's just a great, strong support weapon. It can keep people pinned at their hard cover, and that's great for a team fight. So M60, very strong. Easy to aim now because the recoil is so easy and manageable to control, but it takes skill to use against good players with ops. And honestly, more people are trained with ops these days than M60 players, so it's going to be an uphill battle to learn, but once you get it, you're going to be good. Now, the MP5 was broken before this patch, and I still do believe it's broken. If I had to rate it as an individual weapon, it'd be S tier. But the DT11, and I'm going to talk about these together because they go hand in hand, also got a major buff. As you all know, it does 104 damage per shot in close range. All right. Now, this is overpowered and broken, you would think, because 2-shot kill, that's so fast, that's probably like 0.3 seconds. But since you had to be so close, and the MP5 on paper got a nerf this patch, it has a slightly slower rate of fire, but I think that was only 1 bullet, is my guess. It really doesn't change the math for the time to kill. So the MP5 still has a broken time to kill of like 0.5 seconds, and you don't need to be as close as the DT11. Now, not only that, all the SMGs got a ninja buff, or an indirect buff, you could say, because all SMGs now break build within 4 shots versus 5 shots before. And that is humongous in terms of the close range battle, because a DT11 player has to close that distance against the SMG player. If it's a one-on-one, you have to spam build with. If you're the DT11 player, you have to spam your build to get close enough to use the DT11, because the MP5 person can shoot you a longer range, right? Well, now the MP5 and the UMP, and certainly the P90, break build so easy in the close range, it takes only 4 shots, that it's really hard to close that distance. If you are an excellent MP5 player, you can keep a DT11 player away from you so long as you know how to spam the build and counter move to their charge, all right? And I will have a video eventually on how to do that. But the reason, if I were to rank each of these weapons individually, they would be S tier, because yes, they are broken, both of them. But together, they balance each other. Why? Because the DT11 kills faster than the MP5 in the very, very close range, which it should be. It's a shotgun. And the MP5 kills faster anything past that like 4 yards or 3 yards of distance, all right? And you can peek with it, and it kills build, really well from a little bit better range. And so the MP5, in my opinion, is actually better if you know how to use it. It's easier to use than a DT11. You're gonna tell me that a new player, I'm gonna tell them to use a DT11, and they're gonna go into someone who's had 2 years of experience maneuvering, using builds to like know how to fight in the DT fight. They'll stand no chance even if the thing does 2 shots. However, if you teach them how to peek and counter move to the DT11 player who really needs to be in that close range, it can work. I did this in Clan War yesterday. Just go watch my VOD. You'll see what happened, and it included some of the best DT11 players in the world. So it works. It's tried and tested already. Now, together they balance each other, and I really like that. On paper, the DT11 should be a faster time to kill than the MP5. And the reason why everyone's just freaking out is because it's 2 shots, but before patch, I could not kill a good MP5 player with a DT11 unless I got really lucky, or I just totally outplayed them. Because in a fair fight, I would be dead before I got that 3rd shot off with the time to kill of the MP5. So anyways, they're balanced together, but individually they're broken. The M10 now is actually really, really strong too. The gold one particularly. I saw my good friend Spray and Pray kill Rasta, who was the person who invented the DT11 reload flick. He beat him in a 1v1 with a gold M10, and Rasta had the DT11. It can be done. The gold M10 is similarly broken because it shoots so fast. You can worry about your maneuvering. You can peek more. You don't have to worry about reloading. So it's going to be really good for like newer players to pick up the gold M10. Just learn how to shoot with the recoil. Learn your movement first. Then, pick up the DT11 if that makes sense. M10, really good. The gold one particularly, I wouldn't bother with the first 2 stars for sure, and maybe not the 3rd star. But it's right there on par with the DT11. Obviously, in a one-on-one, assuming equal skill, the DT11 should usually beat the M10, right, in a one-on-one. But in team fights, a gold M10, you're still going to be golden. So the AK, all right, the AKM is, I love this weapon and where it is in the current meta. The AKM is the best all-around weapon. It's the best close-range assault rifle for damage. It does 30 damage-ish per headshot in the close range, and it does good damage at the long range as well. The only problem with it is that it does horrible build break at long range. It's 9 bullets to break one build now after this post-patch, so it's really horrible in the long range for break and build. Someone has to do is put up one build, and you essentially can't kill them, but it's still great in the short range, still good in the long range for just pure damage, but it just doesn't break build. But it's the closest weapon you're going to get to an all-around weapon. You can literally have just this weapon and have a complete support build with nades, health, etc. And you can't do that with many other weapons, all right? So I love where it is. The recoil is easy to manage. Excellent weapon, very strong. I use this every game if I see it on the floor and I don't have my other preferred weapons. So excellent weapon. The RFB, very, very similar. It is also an all-around reliable weapon. It's easier than the AKM to control the recoil. It's better at the long range because the recoil pattern is just easier to manage at the long range, and it breaks build a little better. It takes 8 shots versus the 9 shots of the AK. So a little better at build break, but still not great at breaking build long range. Still solid, reliable weapon. You can peek really well with it. My competition partner, Colin 5, is the best in the world player with it. He uses this at all ranges effectively. I can't do that, but it's a great weapon all around, very solid, reliable, and also fun. Definitely deserves a tier. The UMP, now this one's an interesting one because the MP5 got nerfed in terms of its rate of fire, which seems to be almost the same as the UMP. I can't tell the difference, and I'm not going to do a breakdown to see if it really is different by one bullet, but it seems to shoot just as fast as the MP5. The only problem is there's no scope, so it's harder to hit the headshots, and it's like the headshot damage is not nearly as high as the MP5. So if you can control and match the recoil with the MP5, then there's really no purpose into using the UMP unless you just can't find an MP5. And if you don't know how to control the recoil, go watch my masterclass video on how to control the recoil with the MP5. Easy. UMP, excellent weapon. I'll use it when I don't have an MP5 or another close range weapon because it now breaks build really well. It's solid, easy to aim and peek with because the recoil is intuitive. Solid weapon. The PX4, ooh, the pistols are interesting. The PX4 breaks build in 2 shots. It does really high damage headshot. It's got one of the fastest time to kills in the game on paper. And the only problem with the pistols pre-patch, before this latest patch, is that the bullet travel speed was really slow. Now the bullet travel speed got buffed for all the pistols. Now I do think the PX4 is a legitimate A-tier weapon, and if you are a complete pro with this, you spend your life mastering it, it could be S-tier because it takes 4 shots to break a build at long range, and that's better than most of the other weapons in the game. All right, period. There's not many weapons that can break build at long range. The SMGs take over 12 bullets to break a single build at long range. The assault rifles, except the M60, take a lot as well. So the PX4 and the Magnum and the 1911 are actually really good at breaking build long range, which doesn't make any sense, but it is where it is. You can use this in the close range to peek, spam someone who's charging you with build, like a DT11 player, spam them, you're going to break the build, and you're going to hit them, you're going to put great damage on them, swap out to a DT, and then you've won that fight, all right? It's an excellent weapon if you can master it. The recoil is a little bit hard to do, particularly on a strafing target, which makes it like a hard skill requirement to make this a really excellent weapon, but it can be used as such. The Magnum breaks build in 1 hit in the close range, 2 in the long range. It has excellent burst potential, and in a PvP game, player versus player, it's all about the burst, consistent damage. When someone takes shots at the PX4, they're going to seek cover. With a Magnum, all you need is that one shot to really get great damage on the person to go finish them with something else. If you get a headshot with a gold one, you're doing like close to 100-ish damage. I don't remember the math off the top of my head. You just need 2 of those, boom, you killed someone. It's one of the only weapons that's excellent in the close mid-ish range for peeking and shooting another head peeker. So it's really excellent. Mr. Awesome Jr., my competition partner, used this in Diamond Division with great effect. If you can master this, I think you're going to be rewarded for it, particularly in this patch with the bullet speed increase. All right, I am going to be practicing this more once I've kind of mastered my main weapons. This will be one of my side weapons. I would only use this with a gold one just because of the math to make it really worth that, that use of it. But it's a strong weapon now because there really isn't much to shoot head peekers with. So now let's get on to the FAL. In the last tier list, I had the FAL in S tier, and that's because there wasn't much to use in the long range to soft counter the AWP, and there still isn't. But the FAL is not that. I've seen players spend a lot of their time in mastering this weapon, and I know people who are the best at this, and I'm scared of them with it, but it does not deserve to be S tier, because even if you become like one of the best with this thing, it has its limitations. The first limitation is if someone knows they're getting shot by a FAL long range, they will not die by the FAL unless they're just totally like oblivious or just, you know, not thinking, because once you get hit, the time to kill isn't amazing. So if you get hit, you can just put up one build. It takes 4 shots to break a build, which is better than a lot of the assault rifles, but it still takes a lot of time. They just need to throw up 2 build. They're going to be safe to banana, shield, and they're going to be fine. So it's hard to kill someone who's a really good player at long range with it, particularly if it's an op player who just goes up the hill, opts his shot, and comes back down. You had a fraction of a second to shoot at him. There's no way you're going to kill them or even put on nearly as much pressure damage as the AWP player. So that's its limitation, but it's excellent. Its perk is that by the time you got hit with it, you get shot with 2 or 3 more shots because it's such a quiet weapon. I think the biggest mistake people make when getting shot by this weapon is they feel like it's a sniper rifle, and so they'll fly out a little longer than they normally would if they know they're getting shot by like an M60 or an AKM or an RFB, and so you make mistakes mentally, which make the FAL have kind of these perks or benefits. But if you can familiarize yourself with, I get shot by an op, cover up, by a FAL, cover up, then it really eliminates the threat of that weapon. Having said that, the silencing factor is a dangerous component to this weapon, but it's a high skill weapon. It really is. You'd think it's an easy weapon to use because it's semi-auto and all that, but to time the lead and hit a strafing target is not easy. You can't shoot head peekers really well with this, so it's got its niche. It's still a good weapon, don't get me wrong, but I think it's a solid B tier. The CX4 now, we put that up in higher tier in the last one. It's kind of a troll and just to have a little fun. I do think it's solid B tier because there isn't much weapons that shoot like laser beam precision long range. When someone's flying a mile away, right, you need the weapon, particularly on the hot drop, to shoot that guy who's flying in the air. What do you pick up? You pick up the CX4, right? Because you know it's got laser beam aim, you know you're going to hit your target, and as long as they're in the sky, you're going to kill them eventually. That's what it's great for. You can peek while blind firing, and yes, there's a little bit of recoil pattern. I tested this recently, but it's really not that bad. You blind fire with it and you shoot long range with it. You get a little bit of pressure damage, but you ain't going to kill really excellent players with it. It's just for the poke damage. It has a niche, does it really well. There's not much else that will shoot long range now really effectively. The AKM and the RFB have bullet travel time at the long range. It is kind of hard to get used to. The CX4 is just a little more intuitive with the timing of it. And the M60, yes, can shoot really long range, but like it's kind of easy, but that's why it's higher tier than the CX4. But the CX4 is just so intuitive. You pick it up, you don't need to train with it. It does its job, right? The 1911. Now, this is an interesting one because the 1911 got a buff. It got more damage, which is great because it only has 8 bullets compared to these other 2 that just doesn't make sense, the PX4 and the Magnum. But it also breaks build in 2 shots, and the more you shoot it, the better the recoil gets. The first couple shots have big recoil. The more you shoot it, it tightens up. I saw Tiny Watermelon use this in the Clan Wars we had yesterday, and he killed 2 elite GOAT players with it. You can use it if you got to use it. I wouldn't pick this up over some other weapons, but if you're one of those people that just wants to master it just because you can do so, and you're not going to be a fool. I wouldn't call you a fool for doing so. You can pretty much kill someone with anything in this game, but there are better weapons to choose from, right? It's not a horrible weapon. It's not a great weapon. It's there. Pick it up on the hot drop, sure. Peek with it. Keep shooting with it. The more you shoot, the better the aim gets, so there it is. The sword. Ooh, the sword. The sword was S tier for so long because it was the only thing that could kill someone in less than half a second. It was 0.35 seconds if you could master the swipe. The problem is now with the DT11 probably having, honestly, a faster time to kill while you can peek at a little further range. and the MP5 has less than half a second time to kill, or about half a second time to kill, and they can do it from even farther range, and it can break build really well. The sword player is kind of left screwed because this close range meta is so dangerous. Now before, with the MP5 took 5 bullets to break a build, and that one bullet makes a big difference. Now the MP5 player can break like 4 build with a single clip and kill someone. It takes 7 headshots to kill someone with an MP5 if they're all headshots. You can kill one person and break multiple build in a single magazine from an MP5. That's really dangerous. DT11, 1 shot per build in the close range. Really dangerous for the sword player. So because of these two things that balance each other out, they totally screwed up the sword. The sword is great because it gives you the increased movement speed, but you move faster if you fly. This can be used, don't get me wrong, but if someone knows you're coming with it or knows you have it, you got no chance against equivalent skill, of course. Yes, you can surprise people, and like if you walk in a building, like I got sworded recently, I didn't know someone was in the building, that happens. But if it's like a fair fight and the person knows you're there, you're going to be screwed. You just don't go into the building if they have a sword, obviously, right? At least in close proximity. You know that. And it's kind of the same thing with the DT11. You know they got DT11 in their building, and you don't have a DT11, or like, don't go in that building, right? Peek the window, throw a grenade in or something, right? You just have to play a little more tactically. So, sword, ouch. MK18, this is a funny one. So the MK18 has always been kind of the joke weapon, but it actually has a niche now. If you haven't watched my build break video for whatever reason, that information, that video was so important, go watch it. It's the last video on the list. It breaks build within 1 trigger pool. A 3-shot burst breaks 1 build, even at long range. No other gun can do that, especially the assault rifles. It's almost as fast as the M60 in breaking build at long range, all right, which is cool. Not almost as fast, it's not really there, but it's like the second best assault rifle for breaking build in the long range. Probably even the second best gun in the long range for breaking build, which is fantastic. The only problem is you can't one-hand peek with it, which is stupid. If you could, it would be an A tier weapon, but since you cannot, it makes it a C or maybe even B tier weapon, probably C tier, because you have to ground walk with it. Give it less recoil, big box, and make it so you can one-hand peek with it, then it's going to be A tier. Let's be real. The only time this was a seriously usable weapon was when it was busted, and you could like use a bug to make it auto fire, and even then it didn't feel that busted. So it just felt like an AK. So it's a niche gun. This might fit in some builds where you just need a build break weapon at long range, like an AWP, an MK18. If you know you're not going to get it in the close range anytime soon, might be a smart play. I'm going to do a loadouts video later. This Seiko. Unfortunately, the Seiko does not belong anything higher than B tier because the AWP is so damn good and it needs all the ammo. If you are shooting, if you've never used a Sako against a good player before, very rarely will you kill them in 2-3 shots. Usually they're strafing, throw a build, use like 10 shots to kill a really good player. You're going to miss 1 or 2 if they have really good strafing and all that kind of stuff because you have to lead your shot. The bullet travel speed slower than AWP, but this weapon is great at shooting head peekers, don't get me wrong, but it's just not efficient with ammo, and sniper ammo is not easy to come by. Give it to the AWP player. The AWP does more damage. The AWP shoots faster than the Sako, which doesn't make any sense. So, don't use the Sako. Give the ammo to the AWP player. Sure, you can use it for fun in a public game, but in competition, nobody uses this unless that's all you got, even a gold one. Now, the P90, this is an interesting one. So if you haven't seen my latest video on the patch review, the P90 in the close range is the fastest time to kill for body shots except for the Uzis, for the SMGs. And yes, it's got a faster rate of fire than the MP5 and the UMP. So technically it's got the faster build break and faster body shot time kill. The problems are it's got a random recoil after the first 2 to 3 seconds, as in once you start firing it, you can't control the recoil. It's just going to go everywhere. You're going to miss shots. What happens if you miss shots? It really screws up the time to kill math. You're not going to be able to shoot a head peeker with this weapon in close range after the first 2-3 seconds, which is very important because the close range is all about head peeking right now because of how dangerous it is. Yes, it might kill build break faster than the MP5 and the UMP, but the MP5 kills build so well already, and the UMP, that you don't need the P90. 2 players with MP5s can shoot someone who's charging you with build, like they're spamming build and flying at you with a DT11, and that DT11 player is going to get melted even if they're spamming build coming at you because of that build break change. The build break in the close range got nerfed. 4 shots for all SMGs, remember that. I just can't find a niche for this P90 except for like if you are that support player and you're just going to be peeking and just breaking the build like in the close range. Problem is, the further you go, the more, the worse it gets, and it gets really, really bad at the mid to long range. Double-digit bullets to break one build. I just can't find a good spot for this P90, and that's hard for me because one of my best friends in this game and one of my competition partners, Sammy008, that was her gun. I just can't find a spot for this. No reason to pick this up over the MP5, seriously, because one magazine with an MP5, particularly if you have the gold one, which has more ammo, is all you need to kill someone, or even 2 players, to be serious, and break build. So it's ridiculous how strong the MP5 and the UMP are versus the P90. I think the P90 just needs a little bit more love. I know it got buffed in the last patch, but it's not enough. All right, let's quickly. The Matadors, horrible weapons. They might technically have a faster time to kill than the DT11, which it should, since it's ground walking and the pellets have such a large spread. But you can't be that close in the close range. You can't be ground walking in the close range anymore. It's too dangerous. Someone can peek you with a DT11 and shoot you in 0.3 seconds, probably even faster than that. Like, you just can't stand there open, take shots, and shoot back with Matadors. You only use these if you got nothing else and the person just ground walking in your face for whatever reason, in which case you don't need a tier list like this to kill them with, all right? Uzis, similar situation. The Uzis have the fastest body shot time to kill on paper, but what is the problem? You have to be ground walking in the close range. If the Uzis could break build at long range like they used to, this would place them in the A tier, because then they would have a niche purpose. They would be maybe the only weapon in SMG that could break build fast in the long range. That is not the case, and so for that reason they are in D tier. No reason to use them. All right, so we went over that quickly. This is your tier list for this meta. Now, you might not agree with some of these things. For example, I know the DT11 was like, oh, it's super broken and all that kind of stuff. Well, and I hear some people complaining about the P90. Oh, P90 spam this, P90. Like, if you're complaining about those kinds of things, your playstyle isn't suiting the meta. I am going to make a video on how to play in this current meta. But your playstyle's got to adapt. Every patch, when weapon balance will come out, you have to adapt. And so this is really how the meta is, or it will be for probably you if you play only like normal squads or public games. It'll probably be your meta within 2 months. Once everyone kind of sees this and adopts the play styles that we will be showcasing. But essentially, for example, the DT11, yes, it's broken and it can kill someone in 2 shots, but the MP5, you can always keep someone with a DT11 at bay, particularly if it's not a one-on-one. You know, one-on-one, it's a little easier for the DT11 player to come at you and get a little safer by spamming their build and, you know, flying and maneuvering on you. But in a team game, it's really hard to close that distance safely, because that one person or even 2 people are charging. All you need is 2 people with MP5s focus firing the person who's spamming the build, and they're going to be in big trouble, all right? And peeking, it's a lot safer to peek with an MP5 at a little further distance than it is to get in that close range with the DT11. The DT11 and the close range fights are now a gamble in the close range, because now even, you know, a semi-decent player with the DT11 can kill you, a really excellent player with the DT11, if they get just a little bit lucky. So it's a little bit more of a gamble in the close range for the DT11 or the M10 for that matter, but like for the MP5 it's a little safer. So like when I consider this tier list as not just by a single weapon, it's how all the meta influences each other. So that's why they're A tier. Now, if the, for example, MP5 nerf did hit it harder than we thought it would, and the MP5 was like down here or something because it doesn't have as fast time to kill, which they probably thought it wouldn't by nerfing the fire rate, which it still does, then we would see the DT11 up here, but that's not the case because the MP5 still has a really fast time to kill, and it got a buff to how fast it kills build. And so that's the one I know people are going to debate the most, but this is really what it's shaping up to be. I'm really excited for this current meta, and I'm actually really excited to play this game again, because the last meta was really boring. You pick up an MP5, you pick up an AWP, you need nothing else in your build, and that was so boring. I was playing other games like Breachers and all that, but now in this meta, it's so interesting because your builds and your loadouts are so complicated. Every gun has a specific niche now, which I know Big Box intended to do from a long time ago, and I think they succeeded. This is the healthiest meta we've ever been in for this game across the 3 years or whatever it's been out, all right? Now, the only problem with this meta is people die too fast. The time to kill is too fast for the SMGs and the shotguns, and I think the assault rifles. I think everything and the AWP, every weapon, they need to have a slower time to kill, but all the niches have to stay the same, and all the ranks or scaling in terms of which guns kill faster than others needs to stay the same, because this is the healthiest weapon meta in terms of weapon balances against each other, but it's still the fastest time to kill meta we've ever been in, which is not good for casual players. Casual players will die before being able to react or like being able to even fight back, right? Especially with VR lag, and you have to do physical movements versus like traditional first-person shooters where you have a mouse and keyboard where you can react quicker. You have to do physical body movements, which takes neurotransmissions from your brain to your muscles to activate and do movement and coordination and all that. You need more time to react. So yes, it's the healthiest weapon meta we've ever been in, but it's not the healthiest meta, period. With that being said, I think Big Box did a fantastic job this patch. It's an exciting weapon meta because your loadouts are going to be, or should be, more complicated now. I ran a close range build yesterday where I had an MP5 and a DT11, and I was playing against the best players in the world in terms of close range players, and I got charged. I took out three before getting killed, or two, whatever, in the close range, and what I did was I used the MP5 for like the close minish, and I broke some build, killed one, and then another one charged me. I swap out the DT11 real quick, boom, got that kill. So like there's so many different unique loadouts and builds you can do now, which you just couldn't do before. So I'm really excited to create a loadouts video next after this one. But I hope you're as passionate about this update as I am. I know that when the DT11 got buffed, you're going to see a lot of people, and you yourself are probably going to be like freaking out, and you're like, oh, Pink, I bet you're happy you got the DT11 buff. No, I'm not happy about the DT11 buff, because yes, I like the DT11, but I'm not the best DT11 player. I'm a better MP5 player than a DT11 player, and I showed that yesterday when I fought the DT11 players in the MP5. So it doesn't benefit me personally to have the DT11, be this good. So that's not even an argument. Don't stress out. Like once you learn how to counter the DT11, and we'll show you how to do that, it's not as big of a broken gun as you think it is, because all the other time to kills are just the same. You just have to adjust your playstyle. That's it, all right? Well, otherwise, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Catch me live on Twitch where we did this video live, and we do a lot of live streams. We stream every day. Follow me on Twitch. The link's in the description below. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.